Boy, Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Hello, Star Wars fans. Do you know there are just 299 days until Christmas 2024? We're under 300. It's official. Oh, we're getting there. Hey, we have a lot of Star Wars news today, and I've got my friend Jason Ward with me from MakingStarWars.net and the Making Star Wars show, the YouTube
talk about
channel.
Star Wars real serious, like let's do it.
Yeah. And Megan says that she's available today, so we're hoping to see Star Wars Meg jump in.
Yeah, it's kind of my
to the
hype, man.
conversation.
You know everything about the Star Wars community makes sort of my hype, man.
You know, I see one of our favorite. Oh, I've got the little thing in front of me instead of behind me. Anyway, I see that Matt Risman is in the chat, and Matt Risman is such a fan of the sequels. And he's so excited about the Rey movie that he can barely contain himself. His excitement is exuberant. It's bubbling over, his excitement for this Rey movie. And anytime there's any Rey movie news, Matt Risman is the first to jump on the story. Yeah, hey, there she is. Hey, Meg, how are you doing?
So, hi, man.
Good. How are you?
Very good, very good. We were just going to talk a little bit about the Rey movie before we get into some other things. And I talked to Jason just a little bit before the show because there's some confusion in the midst of the people out there. And let me just share this a little bit. Let me get this. Where is it? I think it's this one. Yeah, let me share this so that we can talk about this. This Production Weekly has a list of all of the things, right? It says issue 1391 from February 29th. And in this list, you can find Star Wars. There's a big list in here. And if you look, wait a minute, I saw it right here. Here it is. Star Wars Episode 10, A New Beginning. Oh, that must mean that's the working title of the new Rey movie.
No, that's the actual title. That's what it's actually called.
It's the actual title, for real title. But that's not the case. And the story came out this week saying, no. And I think Jordan Mason tweeted it. No. I've talked to people.
Jordan Mason is just vampired on like he always does. But the thing about that, like that story itself, is that title was going around through those SEO junk chain companies that you know when you see like an ad and it's like, oh, look at Hayden Christensen's girlfriend, she's so ugly or something like that, and you're like, what? Why would they make an ad like that? And then you're supposed to click it, and then you're like in this like perpetual like ad chain of fake articles that are like AI based on that stuff. That's where that started. Me and Bestman have seen that title 6 times, all from the fake made up junk people. So what needs to be understood is that Production Weekly or monthly or whatever it is What they clearly do is they use Google, the Google keywords thing, and they get Google alerts on certain things like Star Wars and whatever happens to be. And so then they go, and then when they see a bunch of stuff, they go, oh, that's it. Then they just try to estimate when the production is going to start if they don't get an official word on it from somewhere. This one right here was a bunch of fake smoke. There was no fire where there was smoke on this. It was a bunch of fakeness. And then they go, and then they are like, oh, okay, then that must be going here. They just slot it. It's absolutely valueless. It does not show. There's no inside track about any of that stuff at all. It's completely a worthless thing. If I were just reading Star Wars stuff, I would never, ever, ever say anybody should pay attention to that unless somebody who has a source comes and says, this is actually on. Like wherever they scrape this from is actually on. And this title is junk. It's a made up title from people that want to just get you to click links for ads. And now it's being treated as, for some reason, it ended up in that Cosmic Circus report that also had the real production working title for the production title for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is also like a non-story because we have the title of the movie. So, we know what they're doing business as in secret, like Thunder Alley kind of situation. So it's like it's a weird nonsense feeding in on nonsense kind of.
Well, how are people supposed to look at Production Weekly then? Is Production Weekly an industry trade of any kind? Is it anything that people should ever look at?
Yeah, you know what? If you're a crew member and you wanna go work on the new season of Justified, yeah, you should probably be following it. You should probably be using it because it's going to show you where to start looking at to like get jobs and stuff like that. And when it is some ABC schlocky courtroom drama production, there's absolutely nothing guarded about it, and it's probably a fine source. When you're trying to glean Star Wars, super scoops out of it, no, it's completely a worthless endeavor that has absolutely no value at all. And they definitely would have some sources like in the industry, like, oh yeah, I'm going to work on the big Cinderella live action series for Disney Plus, and they're hiring 250 crew members. They're going to know from one of them when those dates are. But I could tell you that in this instance right here, like number one, the New Beginning thing, that's just not real. It's just not real. It's fake. It's false. And then the Thunder Alley stuff that the other people reported, that would be real. Mandalorian filming in around June, that's real. But that's all that there is to glean from it. Like at the end of the day, it's not for you. It's not meant for people to go and then make articles about Star Wars off of. They have a bunk thing because they're using bad info because the real people aren't going to Disney and Lucasfilm aren't going to give them the real production stuff. They don't care. They have it means nothing to them for Production Weekly to know any of this stuff. So it's but like I said, yeah, if you're trying to work on a sitcom or something like that, Production Weekly would be, it's important or it can help you. So that's what it's for. But they will report stuff that isn't accurate, that there's nothing filmed, that isn't a real thing. So
these names are just a byproduct of the studios keeping things undercover, under wraps. Like we know a thing is there. There's a thing. And what they call the thing in Production Weekly is going to be what they can find in a Google search.
Yeah, they're just using keywords, like keywords that come up, and then they know let's say like a discussing film article comes out that says the Karate Kid show Cobra Kai is going to be filming next month, right? Somebody says it. The guy who plays Johnny says, I think we're filming next month. Then that story will become a thing. They'll catch wind of it and they'll be like, okay, there's supposed to be a Karate Kid Cobra Kai thing filming next month. They'll slot it and then they'll figure out either the real time or an estimated time. They don't tell you what the difference is. I've actually written Production Weekly several times to ask about theories and methods about how they do things to better understand it. They would not. I was very polite, but they never responded to anything, any inquiries.
There's another thing in here. It says Lando right there.
Yeah, Lando's not filming.
Yeah. So it's just
there were stories because look at what happened. Donald Glover just did press for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and which Lando came up, which means there's a Lando production. Therefore, they catch it, then it gets slotted in as a thing that's on the horizon, and it's not really close. I hope I'm wrong. That'd be rad if it was close, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, very good. That's sort of the discussion I want to have, because as we talked, people will see this and then they'll create all kinds of content about something they read here. And just understanding, what are you reading? What does this mean? And that's really what this is good. So like
for most of us too, like in this thing, this is the 20th time this has happened in 2 years. So most of the people that are reporting this stuff as if it's like real serious news, they're purposely being idiots to generate content. It's there is, or they have a learning disability. You guys could decide which one it is, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like at this point, like I don't know. I even feel like you guys in the audience should know this the regulars should definitely know how this stuff works. The fandom should be able to police itself on this stuff. Like, oh, actually, and they just don't. It's really weird though. But you say something that they don't like about Boba Fett or something, then they're ready. Come on, everybody, let's pile on. You know, it's like, can we get the dumb stuff just kind of like worked out, like as a community? Can we just be like, hey, you know what? Like we all know this, I think.
Well, no, we don't.
You should. Right?
This happens in my profession all the time as well, right? So like you do some coding, you're writing code, and you think, well, everybody knows this thing, and you're like, except they don't. You're like, but it's so simple, it's so easy, it's just so basic. And we constantly have to have little sharing things. We call them little code review things, and where we share something dumb. It's like, here's how you set a date on a thing. Or, like, well, who doesn't know how to set a date on a thing? Well, a lot of people don't know that. So something that seems simple, common sense, basic to you, may not be the same for everyone. And this is why I really wanted to lean into this today, because I see this week this happening, right? We have a working title, and Bespin, God bless him, Bespin gave us an article talking about the working title for the Mandalorian Grogu movie, right?
Yeah, that was from the Cosmic Circus report.
Yeah. So in this, if we read Bespin's story, because I mean, who does that? Who actually reads stories?
I mean, I read it, Now, poor guy, his stupid British car rule thing. They're making him pay like $2,000 for his car repairs. Like he has to get it, or he can't get his tags. Yeah. So if you read Bespin Bulletin, be a Patreon supporter or give him a coffee if you can, because he got screwed.
So I don't know of this. Meg, do you have a car?
Every year you have to do it.
I've never asked you. I know you live like close to public transportation.
Because a motorcycle.
I used to drive.
Do you have your own private transportation you get around in there?
No, not anymore.
Do you take
I used to drive.
Do you call it the tube?
I do take the tube sometimes, but I don't live central enough to live near a tube.
So you take some buses and cabs and whatnot to get close enough to pick.
Can you fly? Can you fly?
I fly everywhere.
I'm gonna fly on a witch
I take the buses, and I walk. I take buses, train, Uber, various methods of getting around.
Yeah,
excellent. So Bespin, he's living high on the hog, having his own personal vehicle. Of course, he lives way out in he has to, right?
Well, now we know when we show up at Meg's house, just uninvited, unexpected one day. Hey, and she can't drive us places, so
right.
Well,
exactly.
Jason, have you ever done that thing where you look at your house from Google Earth?
Yeah.
Well, on mine, you can see me flipping the bird out the window.
Really?
I'm serious.
Really? Now, now I'm dying to see it. Except I know you won't. You won't tell me how to find that. Neither should you, right? Because it would be not good. But that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So if you go to like Google Street View and you go by your house, you can see you in the window saluting the Google car.
Do it, Meg. Tell Google how you feel.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. So the Bespin, he has his own car. In their tax,
he lives in the Willow territory, so it's like everything's far away.
Yeah. That's I knew that, and he really doesn't have the choice. He's got to drive to get to like a real place. It's similar to me. I live so far away from things that I have to drive to get to like any place that's a place. Right?
Yeah.
So the Bespin, they hit him with new taxes out there or what?
No, every year over there they have like they do like an inspection on your car. Yeah. And then they go like, oh, you must get this fixed, or basically you don't get your tags. You know, like how we have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there it's like ridiculous. Like they go like a full inspection on the car. And then he was like stressing because it was like 800 or whatever. Then they went to do the work today and they're like, oh no, it's a lot more. And so he's having a bad day. Having a bad day. So I don't want him to stop doing what he does, but I think he's going to be like, screw this, because ever since the strikes happened, the money just stopped coming in because people are down to throw money at us and that kind of stuff. When there's a lot of exciting news, but when it gets quiet and it's like, oh, the Bad Batch episode, people don't do it. So it's like.
Well, and
but people are going to want him around when the New Beginning starts filming. Trust me.
Well,
I'll tell you one thing, Jason. This is something I've noticed in my analytics, but also like Patreon and channel memberships and all those other things. A lot of fans stepped away after Ahsoka. Like a lot of fans.
Yeah, that happens every single time though. I mean, and that's been my thing is everything builds into something and then there's a bunch of hype and then there's the drop off and then it recollects. But the difference is like when those drop offs happen, when we have the films, the amount of promotion that goes into the actual films makes that drop off not as steep as it is when it's the TV shows, because the TV shows are a fraction of what the films do. Like even in 2019 when Mandalorian was coming up, obviously it wasn't a hit yet, it wasn't out, but it was just like a normal Star Wars production thing that was coming. It would get me seriously 20% of what an episode 9 story would get me, and those numbers still feel very true. I think that 20% is just that built-in culty fan base that you can't lose no matter what. Like the people that were like hitting F5 on Clone War stories 15 years ago or whatever. It's the same, like that's like the built-in thing. And but it's not like sustainable. It's not worth paying the hosting on a website that when the movies get up and they're going, like the amount of traffic that it goes, but during those off times, it's not worth spending $100 on hosting a month.
I have a counterpoint, Jason.
Yeah.
I don't think fans will care about the Rey movie as much as like the sequel trilogy.
Oh, well, no, that's not even, that's just a fact. You're bringing back Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher back for a new Star Wars movie that's a sequel to Return of the Jedi after all the Gen Xers were babies about the prequels. And everybody's like, okay, we're all behind this new thing that's going to happen. So yeah, nothing is ever going to be as big as The Phantom Menace. Nothing is ever going to be as big as episode 7. That's unlikely to happen. The only thing that will make it go that way, I think, is if they take a 10-year break and then it's episode 10. But that's not, when you get down to it, the amount of money you make doing that isn't worth stopping to do that. You know what I mean? You might as well just continually make stuff, and then you would still make the same amount of money in the big picture. The difference, though, in the modern time is that people are not accepting that the 80s are over. The 80s retro, I will buy something just because it's Ghostbusters, just because it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all that stuff is over. The children of the baby boomers have aged out from going to the theater all the time. The 40-year-olds, they don't go. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to reboot Back to the Future, $1 billion. Like that's done. That is over. And they, so what's going to happen, like what Ghostbusters is doing right now, is they're having to rebuild the franchise. Ghostbusters missed its windows to do Ghostbusters 3 when they could have made the serious money. And then now they're making 200-ish million off a Ghostbusters movie, but they're building it and they're growing it hopefully into a strong franchise. The Rey story or whatever, Star Wars fans are inherently, I would say, less than sophisticated when it comes to actual media, because most of them, they don't actually watch films. They only consume Star Wars. And then they go, well, that's entertainment. And it's like, no, that's not really how this is going to work. So they're going to have to get into this idea that series are going to catch you, and then they're going to grow it. The Rey movie, in my opinion, is probably a $500 million probably thing just by existing. And if it's really good and it gets traction, it could make more. I don't believe any Star Wars movie is going to make $1 billion anytime soon. Good movies aren't making $1 billion right now. The only thing that's making $1 billion are the exceptions rather than the rule.
And this is a good point, Jason. And I want to follow up on two things here. One, Astrobeck Jeremy brings up a really good point, and I was approached by a young man in our church who knew I was a Star Wars fan.
He's like, hey, coach, can you get me back on the basketball team?
Oh, no,
okay.
But we were standing by the doors, people coming, going, whatever. We're standing there talking, and he says, I tried to go out and watch some Star Wars stuff on YouTube and Twitter. He said, but it's terrible. I can't go there. It's not. I wanted to talk about Star Wars with people who like Star Wars, and I thought it would be fun. It's not fun at all. And this was like a 19-year-old who went and checked it out and said, nope, I'm out. I'm not dealing with those people. Right. So
the culture war is boring. It's so boring. If I were a 19-year-old, I'd be like, nah, I'm not. Yeah,
that's what he said. I'm out. And so he just jumped. Right. And so he's not part of the engagement on Star Wars in Twitter or YouTube or anything like that, because it's just terrible. Meg, naughty. Megan, I love you so much. So that's part of it. The other that you mentioned is this 80s nostalgia that seems to be pervasive. Whether it's Karate Kid, they tried to do Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, on and on and on. At some point, they've got to find new audiences. They need to bring in new stories. And the ship has sailed on a lot of the nostalgia. And it's something I brought up with Star Wars. If you wanted to do a sequel trilogy with Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, that should have been when George Lucas did the prequels. When you still
just like Ghostbusters 3. That's just like Ghostbusters 3. Like Ghostbusters when the Ghostbusters were alive, when they were younger.
Yes.
And they missed it. They both missed Ghostbusters 3 and the sequel trilogy's real window.
Exactly. You missed it. And so now what you have to do is you have to rebuild. So with both of these movies, and I'm going to try to walk myself back to the story, to the Bespin Bulletin. I'm going to try to walk back there. These movies that are coming up, the first movie, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, that is leading into the new fans that have been brought to the franchise through that series. We know that Grogu, Baby Yoda, the baby, that has become a big part of our culture. The big part of the Star Wars fandom today are engaged with those characters and that storyline. Whether Mandalorian season 3 was a big drop off, right? We could have a big talk about that. But if you're going to engage the fans who have been brought into. You're going to move forward. You got to move forward with the fans who are here, not the fans from the 80s, myself included, right? So I think the Mandalorian Grogu makes sense. The second half of that is Rey. Rey, the sequel trilogy characters are the characters that the fans who are going to be fans 30 years from now when I'm in the dirt.
Right.
You need to try to get something going with that, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me that you would do that again with the Phil Collins. Yeah.
I know. But I had an idea last night to take Henry Rollins and AI his voice and have him singing Phil Collins songs, and Phil Collins to AI Henry Rollins' voice and have him sing the Black Flag songs, right? And we'll call it Phil Rollins. It's an idea. It's
just an idea. It says so. Bestman says readers of mine would know that Lucasfilm using working titles, code names for Star Wars production is common practice. It's tradition. It's history. It goes back to the original trilogy. After the Star Wars, we had code names when it came to Empire and when it came back to Jedi. Both of those movies had working titles. They had production titles that were different than the name of the movie.
Can I be a nerd? Can I just be a nerd for 1 second?
Please.
Like, okay. Like the like working title thing, a lot of people will think that a working title means like we're workshopping this title. Like Jon Favreau's like, I think it'd be cool if the new Mandalorian movie was called Thunder Alley. And then and it's like we're working towards something. Like that's not what it is though. It's these titles are so that way when they go in to buy a pallet of bricks, they're not going Star Wars here, charge us premium prices. Like that's why they don't do that. Everybody look over here, and then people are like, "Wow, they're buying a lot of bricks for this Star Wars movie." I think there's a brick planet in Andor. You know what I mean? That kind of like that. Right. That's why they don't do that kind of stuff. It's just to keep it low key and to keep the prices like worked out. On this particular story, I find it just nerdy or just almost like a so what, because we know the title of the movie. We know it's called The Mandalorian and Grogu. So who cares what they're doing business as?
Well, it's probably not The Mandalorian and Grogu.
It is the title.
When we see the title come up at the theater,
I am sorry to inform you that it is the title.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Jason, bookmark this. When we go to the theater and we're eating our popcorn,
I literally asked, "Are you effing serious?" And I was told, "Yes, they are."
Okay,
serious.
But when we go to the theater, we sit and we have our popcorn, and the title comes up. If it says Mandalorian and Grogu, I buy your popcorn.
Okay.
If
it's
says
on the website, it's on StarWars.com.
I know. I just don't believe that it'll stay that. I think
when the movie comes out,
it will have a different.
But Santa is going to be buying me a popcorn and a soda. Actually, I want to up it to a
the combo.
And I live in LA. It ain't going to be no Amish prices where the Amish sneaking out to see the movies. These are like real LA prices. So
you get that number one combo, okay. Right? Whatever that number one combo is, that's the one you get. Right.
And just one last before I forget, you could support Besman Bolton on coffee. He is a podunk hick. He is drinking milk directly from a cow's teat. He needs some car money to go to the store.
In the Willow Stick, but he's an hour away.
He's a little Willow Upgood. He's a Nelwyn. He's a little guy. People don't know that. He's a little guy. He's a little Nelwyn.
He's a hobbit.
He's a Nelwyn. How some reason he lives from the Willow Town. They actually filmed Acolyte down the street from him.
Khonshu just likes for me to play this song to annoy Jason and to remind everybody, Khonshu, naughty list. Yeah, Khonshu, naughty list. The seven Canadian. He's still on the naughty list, and Jason gets to listen to Meghan Trainor.
I just became impotent.
Megan, you want in on this bet? If the title says Mandalorian and Grogu when you go to the theater, which side of the bet are you taking?
Oh, so wait. So are you going to buy her? So are you going in on against two people now? So
I'm just
her enemies.
look,
So you might end up buying 5 pop. Otherwise, you get 2 popcorns and 2 Cokes.
Yes, I can get my wife's popcorn and Coke too, depending. Meg, do you want in on the bet or no?
Take it, Meg.
Okay, I'm gonna say it never makes it. They're gonna cancel it.
It happens.
I don't think so. You know, Rogue Squadron. Yeah. My local movie theater still has on their website that it released last December.
Oh, how was it?
I know. I didn't go.
I heard it was just Patty Jenkins roller skating backwards while disco music, the Star Wars Mecho disco music played for 45 minutes, and that was it.
I think there was that track from, the Nintendo Wii game, where instead of I'm riding solo, it's I'm Han Solo.
Oh no, that was the Xbox tracking one, right?
Yeah.
That was cringy. Yeah, I remember that.
So you're taking my side of the bet, Meg?
I'll go with a 3-way.
I should have known better. She's
my hype man. That's why she's my hype man.
I put that on me. I put that one completely on me. I took the wrong.
But everybody, Bespin Bulletin is a very small, bald child, and he needs your help.
This right. We need Sarah McLachlan singing a song about
touched by an angel.
Kissed by an angel. Those poor Welsh people that need our support.
Yeah.
The tiny bald men who live in Wales. They need support.
Welsh people are just so small and little and disgusting.
People need to look. They deserve love too, even though they're small bald people in Wales. We still need to keep them out of the cold. They get cold just like you do.
He looks like an albino starving Marvin. You need your help.
If you're cold, they're cold. You should bring them in from the cold. Yeah, it's.
He hasn't even been able to watch The Bad Batch because of this. You guys, come on.
Oh my gosh. Oh my. Okay, so sooner or later, Bestman will come in to defend himself, or not. I mean, maybe it's all true.
Downtrodden.
So it says some past examples include The Mandalorian season 1 having a code name working title of Huckleberry. Ahsoka was Storm Crow. Obi-Wan was Joshua Tree. The Acolyte was Paradox. Just a small handful. You mentioned what was it in? Oh, here we go.
Didn't the Acolyte have a different working title?
Paradox.
Didn't they reveal one like a few weeks ago?
Well, so sometimes there'll be like a few companies. Some will be like it'll just depend on like the department or whatever it is. Like episode 7 had Avco and Foodles were what they were doing business as, and like one was like more production based in terms of like elements like brick and cement and stuff like that, and one was more like actual production stuff, actual like prop making and that kind of jazz. So. Sometimes there's even sometimes I'll hear about like something like, oh wow, they were doing business as that. Like what was it? Something stockings was one. Like for I think it was for Acolyte. Was it? It was like silver stockings or something like that. Blue stockings. Thank you, Bespin. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So
I like the red. It's trashier.
This is it, right? So and what did you reminded me? Empire had a different title. What was Empire Strikes Back?
Well, yeah, Empire did stuff as Chapter 2 Productions, and that was how they hid that it was Star Wars to some degree. And then they started a licensing company called Black Falcon. Like if you have the old Empire Strikes Back stuff, I'll get it in 1 second. But yeah, that will do it. That'll do it. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. So So just to go further, it says Bestman talks about following Cosmic Circus, and two of the writers, Lizzie Hill and Alex Perez, are fantastic, releasing Marvel Studios reports. That says the Cosmic Circus report does not have either of those writers attached. Instead, it's labeled as written by the series entertainment team. I'll try to get some confirmation, and when he hears any more, he'll update. And then update on at 9:30 p.m. in London time or Bespin time.
Remember this? Remember this one? Remember this this pillowcase? Yeah, if you look on the very bottom here on the corner of it, right here, this is one of the few items that from the licensing thing that has it. You can't see it, but it's a Black Falcon. This is a 1979 released pillowcase way before Empire Strikes Back came out, you know? And then that's one thing where it actually they actually use that for more things. And then, but yeah, I've had this pillowcase my whole life. Almost. I let my kids use it. They're good. I'm like, who wants the Empire pillow? Then they both want the Empire pillow. And I'm like, all right, you better get in there and lay down if you want the Empire pillow tonight. And the little dummies, they fall for it. It's a piece of crap. They're so dumb. Kids are idiots. But
so if we keep reading in Bestman's article, he continues. It says, as mentioned in the Cosmic Circus report, Thunder Alley has been mentioned in the Star Wars universe before, specifically the Legends novel, and then there's all kinds of speculation about what that could mean. It could mean anything. At that point, it becomes just fan mathing and speculation, fun discussion, lots of fun. But then we keep going, and this is the part that my good friend Matt Risman has been waiting all show for. He heard us tease it at the very beginning. He's been waiting in the wings to hear about the untitled Skywalker film, the Rey Skywalker film. Matt is dying to know. Says this title's rumored by many months, has not come from anybody reliable. That it was. It says my sources say this is not the case. I've seen other outlets on social media share. Lucasfilm themselves have denied this title. The title of Episode 10 or A New Beginning.
Yeah, that's where Bestman pulled the punch. He took off the episode 10 on their story. He did them a nice thing. I don't know why he was so nice on that one. Because imagine if the episode 10 title came out in buried in a Mandalorian working production title thing. That would be crazy. But episode 10, just the fact that it's episode 10 would be the biggest story of the quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it ain't that.
So that's not the title. That's not the title. And that you see it on Production Weekly, or you see it on some GFR page or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's not the title.
We got this
I don't
covered.
care what Matt Risman says, it's still not the title. No, not it. So don't buy into that. We'll find out. It says The Mandalorian Grogu set to be directed by Jon Favreau. We get back into that. And then thank you for reading the article. Support him on Ko-Fi. Support him on Patreon. And you should, because short, bald people living in Wales need our support.
Albino starving Marvins need your help.
They do. It's cold. And when it's cold, Bestman's cold. You got to let him in. So there you go. There you go. So that was that story. There's another story that kind of is making some waves. And Meg, did you cover the Amandla Stenberg quote?
Oh, yes, I did. Let me tell you all about it. It was ridiculous the way she went against Disney Star Wars.
But I don't think Meg, I don't think you covered this, did you?
Of course I did. I went to Hogwarts. And then I was kicked out in my final year and I had to take the bus. No? Oh, I left my camera on. Sorry. Wait, hold on. Yes, of course it's me. My name is Megan.
No,
What?
it's not. She's
Okay.
she's walked away. We'll wait. She'll come back. Says
Thanks,
but they
Poopy.
were in this interview. They were interviewing Amandla.
Why isn't your name just Amanda? Why has it got to be a dumb name like that? That's what people should be mad about. Amandla. That's not a real name.
Yeah. Meg's away from the keyboard. She's busy writing the heartstring pulling song to support Bespin because he's cold in the outside, and for just $5 a month, you can provide Bespin with the support he needs to get in from the cold. You too can help Bespin.
You know what he looks like? He looks like, when E.T. turned all white when he was in the stream? Imagine George Costanza if he was all white like E.T. and when he's dead, That's what it looks like right now. He needs our help. He needs a coffee.
Yeah, he does.
At least for a McDonald's. At least for out there, they don't say I'm going to McDonald's. Hey Santa, want some McDonald's? Hey Santa, what do you want from McDonald's? They go, I'm going to get a McDonald's. A McDonald's.
Oh,
what? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Wasting words.
That's good. So they interviewed Amandla, and she was talking about this has got a lot to do with fashion and all kinds of nonsense that I don't care about. But in the interview, they also talked about Star Wars.
Yeah.
And she can't talk about the plot of the Acolyte because the NDAs are restrictive. And she says, they're hacking into my phone right now. It's a joke, right? And then what she can say is it takes place in the High Republic era. Well, it's supposed to. And then, yeah.
If they could hack into their phones, they would. There wouldn't be so many sources, would there?
Best is that I'm taking all this abuse for free. Abuse me all you want. Will you pay me for it?
Shut up, Costanza.
We're trying to get support for you, Bestman. Right? We're trying to get support for the Bestman. Get people thinking, in the arms of an angel, and how you're outside shivering cold and looking helpless as a tiny little bald child. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you an angel? I heard the Deep Space Pirates talk about them. The most beautiful creatures. And then Bespin comes out and he's like, and we give him money.
Some people have some sympathy for Bespin, and sending $5 just for $5 a month, you can support Bespin and bring him in from the cold. That's all we're trying to do. Yeah.
I did cover this.
Okay, good. Thanks. So
was it true that you got kicked out of Hogwarts in your final year, or was that you just joking around?
I did get kicked out of Hogwarts.
See, I told you guys. I wasn't making it up.
It was all J.K. Rowling's fault.
Oh, I just saw that Meg texted us, "Be right back, you guys." I didn't see that until after I turned off my mic and spoke for you for 5 minutes. Sorry, Meg.
I missed it. So, Meg, what's your take on this story?
I think it's definitely words. I think Amanda's a person. And it was great.
Well put, Meg. Well put.
No, but seriously, I want to know more about the Acolyte. A part of me is really excited to see what they're going to do, but I don't have expectations. People say, well, what if it's bad? I don't expect it to be good. I want it to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want it to be good too. I desperately want it to be good because for several reasons. One, it's good for the fandom. It's good for all of us when we get good Star Wars, and I hope everybody likes it, not just a small portion of the fandom. And I hope that it gets us excited about a season 2, future seasons, spinoffs, and the High Republic era as a whole. I truly want it to succeed. There's a couple of things in her quote that I find very interesting. And there's one part of the quote that is getting some eyebrows raised, shall we say. Her quote, in the context of the Star Wars universe, It's a time of great peace, theoretically. Now, if you've been reading the High Republic novels, you know that during those novels, it is not a time of great peace. In fact, there's not good at all. Jedi are being killed. The galaxy as a whole is divided. There are bad things going on, and we're working through that. So this show, The Acolyte, we see one of the High Republic characters in the novels and the comics grown up. It's after the fact. So this is after the High Republic novels and a time of great peace. So I'm looking forward to see how this the story in the novels comes to its end. And I suspect part of why we've not heard much about this is because that publishing effort, you don't want to ruin too much of it ahead of time. But we do have a release date coming up, potential release date coming up this summer. So between now and then, hopefully we learn what we need to learn of this High Republic publishing effort so that we don't have too much of it spoiled, in that it ties in to those novels, because we're picking up one of the key characters from those novels. But so there's that. And then it says it's also a time of an institution, a time which conceptions around the Force are very strict, meaning the Jedi Order has a very strict view of the Force. And I think we're trying to explore on our show is when an institution has a singular conception of how power can be used, we try to provide a lot of different perspectives and answers to that question. Also, that's not new to Star Wars. If you go read a lot of the EU novels, one of the major things that play into the Darth Bane trilogy, for example, is that the Jedi had a very strict view of using the Force, and the Sith had a very different view of it, and that they wanted to free Force users from the restrictions of the Jedi Order. Vernestra Rowe is supposed to be in the.
I've got a very hot take.
Yeah.
I don't think the High Republic is written like Star Wars. No matter what authors of the expanded universe, they all seem to have understood what Star Wars should be. And when you read the High Republic, I see why it's appealing to fans who maybe are Marvel fans or are new to the franchise, because to me, it doesn't feel like the same universe. The only exception is Young Jedi Adventures and possibly The Acolyte. The on-screen stuff seems fine, but I just can't get into the books. And I've tried time and time again. I was reading the recent, the one about the zoo, Escape from Valo.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to like it. And 20 pages in, I'm like, nah, I'm done with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Escape from Valo is becoming a challenge for me too. I'm about halfway through it, and I'm thinking it still is not the best of the High Republic novels.
The publishing efforts never really hit the mark. We've been reading the books for 30 years now, and that's just been the case since I was a little kid. People be like, yeah, it's like the Lando and the Han Solo books are good, but they're not really Star Wars. And they never hit it's a different medium, so it's always off.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And every person has their own sort of way they consume it. And I'll give you an equally hot take, Meg. Is every High Republic novel that I've read is more Star Wars than the Darth Plagueis novel. Darth Plagueis novel is terrible, and it misrepresents Star Wars probably more than any other EU book that I've ever read. I hate that.
I think it's the best of the EU books.
I've read it three times.
But right there just shows you why this is impossible. There is never going to be uniformity in what something so vast as Star Wars is about you hit the mark. It's never going to be that way for on a collective, and unless Star Wars gets real small and the fan gets real small and homogenous, which is not going to happen like that.
And I'll say the fate of the Jedi.
I have a joke answer and a serious answer. My joke answer is, are you sure you read it in English? And my serious answer is that I can't see objectively how someone could say that book is less Star Wars than the High Republic.
It's
because
terrible.
It literally gives you the backstory to Palpatine's life, his master's master.
Except they're all terrible characters that don't truly, like, it is more of a DC superhero novel than it is a Star Wars novel. And the powers that they use in there are not what they're terrible. It's terrible. And I'll contrast that with the Fate of the Jedi novels are some of the best Star Wars I've ever read. I've read a lot of, I probably read, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, which is not like extensive, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 EU novels, right? Legends novels. And by far, Plagueis is, of the Legends novels, the worst one I've ever read. And for me, and so this is the point, is to define Star Wars is different from person to person to person. And it's really hard to say that one person's view of it is the quintessential view of it, right? So we all consume it differently. But one thing, I want to get back to this story because there's another part here. It says,
Geo. How do we get to Geo? That's what we want to know.
No,
best Star Wars character, Geo. It's so dumb. Isn't that the dumbest thing that they ever did, though? It's up there.
They've done some dumb things, and that is up there.
Yeah,
that one is a tongue-in-cheek book. Like the entire book is like badun-dun-ch at like every page, right? It's there's a lot of hilarity in it. But back to here. This concept of the Jedi having a singular view and then others having a different view carries on back into Legends materials. It carries on into some
probably going to carry on into the Mangold movie, most likely.
Probably. And so this in and of itself should not be anything that people get worked up about. What people get worked up about comes later. It says a singular conception of how power can be used. We try to provide a lot of different perspectives and answers to that question. Sort of like the Nile or the
can we get Bespin's tax incentives articles in this one, so that way I could get him to come on and fill in for me, because I could get him to do it, I think. But you got to cover.
Can I sprinkle some salt on this conversation?
Yeah,
just a huge grievance I have. So I ordered the book High Republic Character Encyclopedia.
Yeah,
and if you've watched every comedy special on Netflix, get that book. Every page is a laugh, because I don't know why Disney cannot create a single interesting Jedi.
I could disagree with you.
About their personality, even the aliens, like they just made the weirdest concoctions and variations on existing species.
I vehemently disagree. Like there are a couple of Jedi in the High Republic era that are Bel Zettifar, for example. His character to me is tremendously fascinating, and I'm hooked. I'm on the hook with him. I want to know how his story resolves. I want to know what happens next. When his life was in danger, I was on the edge of my seat. Like there are some characters in there that are huge, that are fantastic. Others, sure, the throwaway characters. I want to get to this comment right here. It says the idea is to honor the ethos of Star Wars and the ideas around the Force. What Amandla has gotten herself into a little hot water on is this next part, and also challenge them hopefully harmoniously. So
what? No, that's George Lucas's Star Wars, you guys. What is going on here?
right. Right.
We live in a baby world. This whole fandom is baby based. We're all stupid. I feel stupider even acknowledging people being mad about that. It's so stupid. It's such a I'm so mad. Oh, Stenberg did it again. Like, it's such a weird thing. It's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy.
I've got to disagree with you. Jason.
It's baby. This is baby brains.
Jason told me the other day that I lean into the fandom menace quite a bit, so I'm going to keep up that reputation with this comment. Could you imagine if Disney Star Wars was less antagonistic and they were like, we're making a show 150 years before episode 1. We want to respect the ideas of that era. And so what we're going to do is show maybe the High Republic in the context that feeds seamlessly into the way that Yoda lived through that time period and has the conceptions of the Jedi Order he does by the time of episode 1. Every quote from these people who worked on the show is always, we want to challenge George Lucas. We want to show you that Star Wars isn't all about men, like that one actress at Star Wars Celebration. She didn't even talk about the project. It was all about her personal views. That's all I'm saying. That's my view on it.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is you can't. So George Lucas's the respecting George Lucas's thing is George Lucas going, I didn't write that stuff. My story doesn't take place before then, so it's everything's fine. You cannot go and then have a story without there being friction. You can't do Star Wars without the wars. So by that very metric, we've set up a thing where anything is disrespectful to George. This is nothing. This is like baby brain stuff. It's not real. It's not. It's like, oh, it's going to challenge the idea of the Force. That's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. It's nothing. But you can make it mean it's a bad thing that you want it to. But really, that is mush mouth words. It's filler. She didn't say anything though. She said nothing. It was an actor mouth verbal diarrhea thing. And it goes, what does that mean? It's supposed to make you go intrigued, like, what? Stuff from the Force I didn't know about? And instead they're like, no, they're going to change what George Lucas said about, and it's not any story that doesn't challenge some notion of the narrative that the viewer has is inherently a boring, dumb thing. Like, it's a story about a guy who woke up and goes to bed. No, it has to be like, he thought he was going to wake up and go to bed, but then, and so like I said, this is the fandom menace people looking for things to get their panties, in a Murph, right there in the middle of it. That's what they're trying to. It's
have
nothing.
You considered that some fans care about the Force?
It's not real. It's the made up magic powers. Like that's where it just. I'm sorry, but that's just where it like. I lose my mind on it because it's not a real religion. It's telekinesis. It's superpowers. This is like I said, this is baby brain. That's why I can't engage with this one because she didn't say anything. You know what you're gonna see? Nothing's gonna change. There's no new Force. These people don't have to. They're creatively bankrupt. They're working for Disney. They don't. There's not going to be anything that's going to challenge anything about anything. But where I think what I think she might be getting at is that like I was a Jedi and I thought, these people are jerks, and then I turned against because she's an acolyte. She doesn't become a Jedi, right? So she's going to hear the doctrine and she's going to reject it. Like if we want to have like the real, if there's anything real to that quote, which I don't believe there is. I think it was just like, there's stuff you guys haven't seen yet, and but it's being presented or taken as if it's this like Disney Star Wars, which is like a quote for Kathleen Kennedy and her stupid stuff. Like, once again, it's all nothing. Conservatives could literally take over Star Wars, and it's going to be as creatively bankrupt as the stuff that we're getting through the machine.
So, Jason, I know that you have to go read stories to kiddos in like 15 minutes.
Yeah. I'm reading some Dr. Seuss to Penny's class right now. Speaking of baby brains, dumb kids.
I know you've got to run, and I'm going to recontextualize a little bit of what you have just said, and try to meet in the middle between you and Meg while you're gone. So thank you.
Bye, Meg. Sorry for yelling at you, Meg. Did it seem like I was yelling at you? I was just trying to be like performative.
I know. I
love you guys. Bye.
Thanks so much, Jason. Bye. No, I was going to say. You're right, Meg, in the context that some of the folks on these projects are coming in and speaking from a perspective of a non-Star Wars fan. And the words that they say when received by a Star Wars fan can be offensive. And it's because we love and care for this franchise so much more than some of the people working on these projects. And I would say that's true of the vast majority of the people working on these projects. Going back to the prequels, I just saw it come up again from an old Saturday Night Live skit where, what's her name? Padme.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman was on a Saturday Night Live, and they did a skit where they have another one of the Saturday Night Live comedians in the audience who says something to the effect of ask her some question, some really, really remote. So Bespin can come on. Bespin, you have the link. You can come on when you want. It would be more than welcome. Anyway, they portray some Star Wars nerd who comes on and asks some question about some obscure story point and why would Padme interact with somebody this way, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I don't know what the heck you guys are talking about, right? She doesn't care. She's portraying Padme, the role in the movie that she has. She is not consuming volumes of Star Wars books, materials, legends, canon, none of it. She's portraying a role that she has, right? So to expect that these actors would have the same level of interest that maybe you or I or a lot of other fans do is a little nonsensical. However, that being said, it wouldn't hurt for Lucasfilm to say, you're going to run into some rabid fans who know all kinds of nonsense about Star Wars that you could never begin to know. Don't say these things or say these things or just sidestep questions. Don't talk about it whatsoever because you're going to say something that's going to offend someone because you're not going to understand the full context of what you're saying. And I think that's basically what's happened here. And to be fair, George Lucas set up a lot of these issues himself. When you have the Jedi taking children at a young age away from their families and telling them you shouldn't love your mom and dad. Right? That's the short of it. He didn't say it in those words, but that's the take, right? Is you took these kids away from their families and said, you shouldn't love your mom and dad. You shouldn't love your sister, your brother, because that leads to entrapment and the dark side and so on, right? So George opened that door. He never addressed it in those terms, but it's laying right there on a platter. And it's been there since the beginning. And it's something that comes up in debates among Star Wars fans from time to time. And what I read into this thing that Amandla is talking about is addressing some of that, right?
I'm back.
This is not Dr. Seuss time, Jason.
I got pushed an hour.
Oh.
He texted me and said, can he come a half hour? And I was like, yep.
She kicked you out. No.
Mm-hmm.
And well, first of all, since Mike Yaney did this, Mike, and since Jason is back, we could play this song for Jason. Here you go.
No.
Yeah. Mike. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Oh. Mike, naughty list. That's you. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Mike.
That's good stuff, dude. That's good stuff. Bro.
And I need to go back and catch this other one from Khonshu because I think a lot of people will agree with Meg. Meg spitting facts today. And who else? Jedi Mike. Meg is so fandom. And I agree. This is why I think Meg is so important to our fandom as a whole. Is she is the fan. And Meg, you are a voice that is able to reach a broad spectrum of the fandom. And when people get to know who you are, you're not the stereotypical straight white man living in his mom's basement that a lot of people think.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, Amandla Stenberg?
Nothing's wrong with that.
Cut yourself in hot water.
Meg is not that, and that's an important voice to have. And being the age that you are, you represent such a large group of fans, and are able to talk about Star Wars in a way that brings, I think, more people together. And I think you are absolute gold for the fandom. And when we disagree on things, and you guys have heard it today, Meg and I disagree vehemently on some of the points around the High Republic or on the Legends novels, right? We have very, very different takes. But we neither of us think less of the other because of our disagreement or our fandom, right? We admire each other for who we are, and we're friends because of it. So,
and that's the best way to be, to have discussion, to interact with others. I think my problem with a lot of the fandom today is, especially on social media, you see a lot of people who they absolutely love everything that Disney puts out, and they claim they're positive, they claim to be inclusive or whatever, but the minute you don't like something, you're kicked out that group and you're labeled and you're fandom menace, and suddenly it's like, aren't we all meant to express what we like about Star Wars?
Yeah, that's very well put. There is a perspective of people who love the Disney Star Wars era who are hypersensitive to criticism.
It's more baby brains. It is. I mean, there's the haters and the lovers. They got the baby brains. They're like, it's like, why are no one would really come up with these arguments, so positive or negative, in an organic, real way to each other. Like all three of us together, if we were just like, we just met for coffee every week and we weren't a part of the internet and we just like, what's going on? Nobody would be like, oh my God, you guys hear what Amandla Stenberg said? Nobody would be mad about it. It's always somebody going like, I'm justified in my feelings. It's all based off of like this feeling justified in the feelings. And then it's like, it's weird.
Let me finish my point here, because there is a hypersensitivity among some fandom to any criticism from the Disney era. There's another group of fans that I have had to deal with who tell me that I'm a fake fan, or what, right? Not from the perspective of like Darth Melvin or whatever, right? Nothing like that, because he's doing a great job of what he does. But I've actually had long, drawn out arguments that went days and weeks where people are accusing me of not knowing Star Wars because I like a certain part of Star Wars that they don't. So you can equally be attacked and assaulted as a Star Wars fan for liking something somebody else doesn't, right? You can be attacked by not liking something they do. You can also be attacked by liking something they don't. And I've heard it said over and over again that you cannot be a fan of Star Wars if you like fill in the blank.
Girls.
That's not true because Meg and I both like girls and we both like Star Wars. So there.
Okay. I'll think about it. We'll think about it.
That's and what we tend to do is we tend to get trapped in our own view of the feedback we get. So if Meg gets a lot of feedback from the hypersensitive fans who like this portion of the Disney era of Star Wars, then the perspective is these people are terrible.
Well, let me ask you the unfair question. How do we or the corporation steer the discourse into a place where the criticism is actually
Uh-oh.
Disney's trying to take me down. Disney's trying to take me down. But no, how do we move it into a place where it is actually constructive? Because what the Fandom Menace does is not constructive. It does not make Star Wars better. In fact, it gives bad Star Wars a shield. We're not talking about where The Last Jedi is a weak film at times. We're talking about something that made somebody mad because they like Space Vegas or hate or whatever. It's some inane stuff. And then the same thing with the people that say oh God, guys, no, The Bad Batch is the most quality Star Wars ever. And you're like, well, actually, like nothing is perfect. And here's where The Bad Batch could have been. And they're like, they won't hear it. And so it ends up being in a place where I don't think any valid criticism or discussion is actually heard. It's only the stupidest and loudest of two polarized extremes that are that we look at. And I don't know how we get out of that because it doesn't help. It doesn't like even on the prequels, we got 10 years out of the prequels. And at first, this was the worst movie ever made. Well, was it the worst movie ever made? No, it was not. That's a ridiculous note. So much of the conversation was fluff and filler. And it's like, so that like that's where like your friend at church who the 19-year-old who like wants to like engage with Star Wars. It's like there has to be like a mixture. I don't think we should pay any attention to anyone who likes everything. I don't think we should pay attention to anyone who hates everything. I think you should pay attention to people that are sincerely honest with this worked for me. This did it. Mando 3 was all right at times. At times I didn't actually like it. But anybody who says that everything is all good or all bad, that's saying nothing at all in the end.
And Jason, as Real Ben says, you've earned this. Yeah, Ben, same thing. Jason earned it. You earned it too. A $5 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, my friend.
Hey, are you doing this too? Because you're
earned it too. Yeah. And for those that don't know, Jason hates that song.
It is objectively bad.
No, it's not. I love it. I play it just for enjoyment sometimes. And I'll skip. I've got the album, Meghan Trainor's Christmas album. And sometimes I'll skip ahead to that just to listen to that song. It's a great song. And
weekly joke I get to make. Who's Meghan Trainor? Meg's girlfriend? Is that what they call her? Meghan Trainor? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Is it like the Rancor and the Rancor Trainer?
that was a keeper, Meg. A Rancor keeper, fake fan. Come on.
You brought up something that I want to transition to, and I think this is a perfect time to do it. In Meg's video today, talked about the Bad Batch and how it is kind of reinforcing and expanding our knowledge of one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made, Attack of the Clones. No, see what I did there? See what I did?
Get him, Meg. Get him.
I know she will. She already has, but she will.
You said I made a video about the worst Star Wars film, but I've not spoken about The Rise of Skywalker in years.
I know. That's what I was going to say.
I knew it. Again, big credit to Megan because a while back she asked me if I would contribute to researching and providing some content around Attack of the Clones, and specifically, I did a deep dive into looking at Count Dooku. And some of the content we get in some of the outtakes from Attack of the Clone, as well as the Clone Wars animated series, reinforces that character. And you find out in the novels as well. There's a lot of content that adds to Count Dooku's story that makes him a much better character than what we just get in the movie. His character, in my opinion, is really done wrong in the movie. Oh, he deserved a lot more. And what we're getting from the Bad Batch right now is a more expansion upon what was going on at Camino. And more specifically, we were talking about a little bit in Meg's Discord, Omega was there during that time period, right? She was there when Boba Fett was there. She was there when Jango and when Obi-Wan had their little scuff, right? Omega was there. Question, did Omega and Boba Fett know each other? Were they aware that the other existed? We don't know. We can speculate.
Almost like they should have made a series about it.
Almost like we should find out. Yeah, because maybe they did know. Maybe Boba Fett just saw himself as superior because he was Jango's son, right? I get to live with Dad. I'm his son.
I wanted his son. I didn't want no daughter. And he's
right.
like,
I'm not one of these clones, right? I'm a legitimate son of Jango, even though he was made by a cloning process, right?
Yeah.
So Omega, being his sister, he may have known that she was there, and Nala Se was raising her, but sees her as a lesser because of it. We don't know. It's fun to speculate. Did Boba Fett know Omega or not, or would he have even cared?
Yeah, you could take that. I mean, you could also take it before his father's demise. He doesn't care, and then after he does. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, I don't have anything. I have no family. I'm a made up person, like a character. I'm a clone, and then this person is the closest thing that I will have to a biological sister. I mean, there is obviously a story there if they want to make it. And then we went into it last week about how Omega is essentially a container. Doesn't mean that she is getting Force abilities put into her. But if it does go that way, because she does have midichlorians that are notable, if it did go that way, there's a good story there too, with Boba Fett figuring out he has a sister or finding a sister and she's a Jedi, because we for years worked under the assumption he hated the Jedi because they cut his dad's head off. And so like that right there fundamentally makes that makes friction right there. And now once again, the people will be like, this doesn't respect George's vision. But once again, it's like that kind of, I mean, George doesn't respect George's own vision with Ahsoka. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, and now there was an apprentice the whole time, because it's made up. It's not real.
Yeah, he says
it's interesting though.
Anakin has an apprentice, and then Dave Filoni says, no, he doesn't, because he does now. Work it out.
Yeah.
yeah. Yachty has spoken. The Bad Batch is greater than Star Wars live action.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Omega was kept hidden from the other clones and spent most of her life, with Nala Se.
Yeah.
And I figure that maybe the only other person who knew about her was Shakti, who was on Camino quite a lot of the time.
Well, and Lama Su, right, to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the Kaminoans. So
yeah.
Probably Shakti. And I wonder if, we don't know if Omega has the Force. We know she's got DNA that allows for like high M count transfer with no degradation. But
Right.
if she were to have the Force and have a high M count, do you think maybe it was Sifo Dyas or Dooku that they used as like
That's
an
a good
external?
question. I don't.
To me, it would seem that she is sort of a secret project, right? She's like not one necessarily on the books or whatever, and you have the Dooku and the Sith interference with that kind of stuff. So they can go two ways on it. They could make it where she is Nala Se's pet project, and obviously it ends up just becoming what it becomes through that way, or it could be like, Palpatine had alternate plans for what he wanted there. Now, the fact that if they're testing everybody and then that they want her later on, I think kind of does play into that being the story, into that it like there was a little bit of let's do this, and who nudged her to like start doing that. Why did she start doing that when the initial order is make Jango Fett's, make Jango Fett copies?
Something I wonder, and it's something that I think they're kind of touching around the edges of, is DNA manipulation. I don't necessarily think that they had to bring in additional DNA, Meg. I think that by messing with the chromosomes involved in a DNA sequence, they're trying to find out which one turns on midichlorian receptivity. Right? Is there a genome? Is there something in the DNA sequence that if you flip it, it opens up more midichlorian receptivity? And so you don't have to necessarily bring in something else, because we also know that she's supposed to be an unaltered clone of Jango Fett. Well, she's been, one thing's been altered anyway, her gender, right? So we know that they flipped something there that turned male to female, which is, relatively easy when you talk about chromosomes, right? We can identify that and relatively easy, right? It's XXXY, whatever. So they could do that. But is there something else? And as they're doing these experiments regarding midichlorian receptivity, M count receptivity, and being able to transfer M count from one blood sample to another, have we found that marker? And have we been able to then change the sequence, or being able to change the method by which we do the transfer, which is why they keep testing the same samples over and over? Is, okay, we've changed something in our processing of the midichlorians or of the sample, the donor sample, and now let's try putting this version in and that version in, and let's change this marker and that marker until you can find that combination. And that's how genetic sequencing, that's how science regarding chromosome or DNA processing works, right? So we're even seeing that now in modern day as they're dealing with cancer, right? There's some cancer that they can now, they can create a vaccine for. You can get a vaccine, and others, they take some of your own blood and then they pick up on genetic markers in that. They give them a little juice and they put that back in you, and then your own blood fights back against the cancer. Right? These are things that are happening in real science in the real world. And we know Star Wars doesn't work the same. That was even in an interview this past week or two. Right? Star Wars is a different universe. Things don't work like science here. It's fine, but
it's fantasy.
I think that, Mumbo Jimbo, another $5 super chat. Jason, Meg, let's face it. Say it's a Jason and Meg. Let's face it. Omega will survive the Bad Batch. Then we won't know what happens to her until a comic comes out in 2044. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah. I do feel though, like all of the characters that they create, that Filoni makes and stuff like that, I do think that they are likely all working in towards the characters that are going to be Luke Skywalker's homies. Sabine, you guys would have said the same thing about Sabine. Ain't no Jedi. She's not going to get the Force. Blah blah blah. And then now there she is. And then Ahsoka. And then Ezra Bridger. And then this, like, I do think I would not surprise me just based off of the past trends of what the protagonists become. If we end up with her being having the ability, the fact that she has any midichlorians to even talk about is a big deal.
But does she?
100%. I agree with Jason. Like, the way that they structure shows is much more simple than us diehards who do all the research, read the books, would assume. And I think even just suggesting Omega has some connection to have, a high M count, I think that's them setting us up for the fact she will use the Force. And they've even kind of told us in the interviews that there's a connection to Asajj Ventress. And it could very well be that Omega goes off with Asajj, becomes her apprentice, and then that's the next show. And it sounds crazy to us now because we're like really deep into the whole DNA stuff and Jango Fett. But I wouldn't be surprised if the whole idea from the start was we're going to make a female Boba Fett who has the Force.
Right. I agree with Obsession here, by the way. We have no evidence that Omega has M count whatsoever. There's nothing.
But they've implied it. They've implied it.
I disagree with that. She did not lose any. She had so here's the whole thing. People make it seem like if you have one midichlorian, you're a Jedi. No, that's not what it means. Everybody has it. Everybody has it.
Everybody's got 10.
Yeah, and hers don't. But hers is significant enough that it doesn't lose anything when they do the science. Yeah.
No, her blood, as he says, her blood can bond with M count cells. She doesn't necessarily have it, and they weren't putting M count into the clones. They're putting it into their blood.
Okay. Roll it back. Hold on. Are they putting midichlorians into her?
Yes. No, not into her. No.
Okay. Then how is she not losing that she doesn't have?
Because they're putting blood in the blood. You can see them dripping blood in the blood. Mm-hmm. Like the blood sample comes in and they drip some in. You can see it. It's in the show.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that, she's a vessel. They want to use her as like the template for clones for Palpatine's essence. It doesn't mean she has the Force, but I think that's the direction. I think the big revelation will be Nala Se kept Omega hidden because not only does she have the potential to have a high M count, she herself is going to be revealed to have an M count.
Well,
we're
also
literally 4 episodes in. Like, there's so much more of the season to go.
Yeah. Meg, do you think that that they were maybe using Ventress as the donor for the original? Like, where do you just get the midichlorian?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because of the connection.
Is that what you're implying? Okay, yeah. I think that seems like a possibility.
I think they're finding which marker you turn on, and you can then receive more midichlorian receptivity. I think that's it.
Star Wars Obsession is like, no, you could be completely right based off of what this is, but who is more likely based off of this tangential information that we have right now to be a Jedi? Sabine Wren at the end of Star Wars Rebels or Omega at the end of this series? Which one became a Jedi? The way unlikely one. I'm sorry. This kicked the door open. This kicked the door open. Even if it's not what they intend today, Omega is going to be a Jedi based off of this, the way it was told, the confusion surrounding it, the fact that it's on everybody's mind because of that, and that's where it's going to go. That is my prediction. I'm not saying it's going to be at the end of the series. That's where it goes, though. That there is no way somebody doesn't pick up the pen and go, well, I can do it, and then there's going to be nobody to stop them, and then they're going to do it. Watch.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I actually agree with Jason. It's going to be one of those things where the Force theme starts playing, Omega closes her eyes, she's about to die, and then just Force pushes Hemlock.
It might be the very last thing that happens. Yeah, it might be the very last moment of the season, the last thing that she does.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I really don't think so. And
where's the fun in that?
Because we can speculate about this. This is the fun of being a fan.
Yeah, it's just I'm saying it's not fun.
It is for me.
So right? It's fun that they made a clone without a wiener. Like that's all that it ends up being at the end. a clone without a wiener. But by going and then doing what they've done, they've now opened up the door, something that was thought to be impossible, a pathway some consider to be unnatural.
But she doesn't have to have the Force in order to still like show that her blood. They found the marker you can turn on to increase.
This is all boring though.
Receptivity.
That's all.
I've got to say though, Jason is
science.
Jason's got a really good point about the way that they make the shows. Like, if you're considering this show that comes after the Clone Wars, and it's a continuation, it's an animated series that most fans are going to watch once and move on. In their minds, Jason's right. They probably, if they want to do something with Omega other than kill her off, they've probably thought of something akin to her becoming a Jedi for the way the story starts and ends. And just as people made a defense for Sabine, saying there were signs in Rebels, I can find you more signs in the first 2 seasons of The Bad Batch, where Omega, I felt like, was about to use the Force. So I wouldn't be surprised from that standpoint if that was always the trajectory.
Well, this is the fun part. We can find out. Thank you, Yadi. Thank you for being here through the show. KG just made it. She's real late. Jason, you okay to hang out a little bit more? Your half hour is past.
Yeah, I'm good. I have a few more minutes.
There's one more story that I haven't touched on yet, and it's the Respawn one, right? So a rumor came out a little bit ago that Respawn was going to make a Mandalorian video game. And everybody got real excited about it. Everybody covered it. It was great. I saw Meg do a story on it. I saw all the content creators did it. Bespin wrote a story about it even. It was great. Mm-hmm. Then we find out, no, just kidding. They're not doing that. What's going on, right? It's they're making it. They're not making it. What was the other one? Not Activision. Activision. There's the Ahmed Best, right?
This was a bounty hunting video game that was supposed to come out. We didn't know if it was Din or another bounty hunter. Now I think it was Jason Schreier. I can't remember who. Somebody came out and then said no. It was you were a new bounty hunter, and it was you were going to go do bounties, and it was going to have all these bounty hunting mechanics. And the Ahmed Best thing is from another video game and nothing to do with Star Wars. He just hashtags everything what he's known for.
Right.
So that one right there is not connected to it at all. That was a nothing story completely for Star Wars. For Ahmed, congratulations. But for this game, this is just another time of EA pulling the plug on something and going, oh well, we don't care about Star Wars. We don't care about Star Wars fans or their I don't like it. I honestly hate when people get like that. They're disrespecting the fans. Like, no, you're being crazy. Most of the time, it's not about you. EA literally does not give two poops about anything having to do with Star Wars. All they are is they're about the bottom line. They don't care about your expectations. They don't care what they do. They don't care if they hurt the brand. They paid for it. They don't care. And they're a bad company who in the end does not follow through on anything. I personally am not covering anything from EA Star Wars anymore. I don't care until it's coming out. When we're at the, I'll cover the Jedi 3, Fallen Order 3. That will happen, I would think. But when it's some new thing from EA, what a wait! Don't give it any air, any oxygen. It's not worth it. It's a waste of all of our times. They just continue to do this, and they don't care about their employees either. So when you get down to it, they don't care about anything. We shouldn't care about them. I mean, the only people who care about it are sports people. At the end of the day, they're a sports company that frolicked with their money in the nerd sphere of stuff.
Well, I'm going to make a back to it. So, well, hold on, but before I do that, Meg, what's your take on the whole EA thing?
It's so disappointing. It's just another in a series of events. I can understand Jason's frustration, not wanting to cover it.
Yeah, I equate it a little bit to Hasbro. Hasbro isn't known for announcing a thing and then the thing not happening. The thing about Hasbro is it's repaint and repack, and then coming up with bad ideas that they try to get people to buy.
Right.
But you know what? Hasbro is a much bigger company than just Star Wars Vintage Collection and Star Wars Black Series figures.
They're still a toy company, right?
They're still a toy company. Not only that, but games, right? They board games, video games. They've got a huge platform that is far beyond Star Wars. Far beyond. Star Wars is just a fragment of their business. And to look at a failed, see you, Jason. Look at a failed HasLab project and think that Hasbro is going to go out of business because they're mismanaging the brand is a little ignorant of what Hasbro is as a whole. Should Hasbro lose their license to exclusivity regarding Star Wars toys? I think there's where the discussion could be held and where some fans have fallen, much like EA and the frustration with them mismanaging the brand of Star Wars. EA is bigger than Star Wars. They've got a lot of other things going on other than Star Wars. So does Hasbro. Are either of them managing that brand well? It depends on who you ask. So I think that's a fair argument to be had. And I keep watching. I know Baymax is in the chat. I know he's passionate about the topic. So expect to hear from Baymax. We did not get your answer regarding Ragtag, Baymax, but I wanted to catch that before Jason left. And Meg, I would like to go back to the Bad Batch just a little bit, if you don't mind. Are you still, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, great. A little speculation about what we have coming up in the next couple of episodes. Where do you think we're headed in episode 5?
Oh, I'm going to say something pretty crazy. Hera's family.
Hera's family. Wow. That's a out of left field, but not at all. Like, I didn't see that coming. Not like left field as in that's a wild idea. It's we've seen Omega meet Hera. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and I saw you kind of got excited when they did meet because they were set up to be friends, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And Omega and Crosshair reunited with the Batch in the last episode on the same moon of Ryloth from season 1.
Yeah. Wow. That would be really cool to see that pay off. They did set it up. Are they going to pay it off that way? Or do we have to wait for another series to get announced? Might we see it somewhere else? That's my frustrating part about knowing this is the last season of the Bad Batch, is that there's so much more they could do with these characters in this story beyond this season. Wow. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
What about you?
There was something that was brought up, and I'll tell you my speculation too. But in that final scene of episode 4,
Mm-hmm.
and I was rewatching it after I saw the breakdown that and I want to think it was from Screen Crush, but I could be wrong on that. When we see Omega come off the ship as she sees Hunter and Wrecker, it's sort of like from behind Omega seeing Hunter and Wrecker across, and then when it flips, you kind of see from Wrecker's perspective looking at Omega, and then she runs across that the distance and gives him a hug. Then when it backs out, we get a side view, and so that whole sequence shows closeness. Then when it backs out and you see it from the side, and you see Crosshair coming down the ramp and across, there's this chasm between them. I thought, wow, what a great way visually to show what's happening with the characters themselves. Like, that was a brilliant breakdown, one that I didn't catch. And when I went back and watched it, it reminded me of just the brilliance of these show producers, the people animating this, telling this story, and the quality of this. And when you go back to Yadi's statement before about animation or the Bad Batch being greater than live action, shots like that are so well choreographed or written, just is fantastic, right? So it really leans into it. So now I think, where are we headed in episode 5? I think, just from the trailers and things we've seen, we've got to be going back to Pabu. That's my thought. This might be the first episode that we don't see Mount Tantus or Wayland. What do you think?
It's an interesting thought. Why Pabu?
Well, because in the trailer we see Fee, and we also see a bunch of troopers on Pabu. Right? We see a bunch of them gathered there. So I think they're going to go there, and then that's when the Empire is going to say, hey, we heard they're there, and they're going to go there. Maybe they've already left by the time the Empire gets there. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, yeah. And there's this theory that Pabu is the town or the island, and the planet is Scarif. That's a heartbreaking thought.
It is.
Yeah. I don't think. I think it's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we're going to go to Pabu next. That's my guess.
So we're going to see the three young clones, the clone cadets.
Yes, because I think they took them there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good chance that Omega again gets to see these other clones again, or for the first time, whatever. Yeah, I do think so. That's where I'm headed with it. And a bird has told me to delay expectations of seeing bounty hunters. We're not going to see Ventress or Cat Bane or Fennec anytime soon. So to me, that's what fits in. And then if you look at the trailer, there's another point where they seem to be attacking Mount Tantus. And I think before the season started and up to this point, I kind of thought that was when we were going to see Hunter, Wrecker, Rex, a bunch of people assaulting Mount Tantus to get Omega. But now we know she's already escaped. She's already reunited with them. And that's likely going to be something she says, we've got to go back and save these. They're our brothers, like that kind of thing. And her sister, by the way. Which leads me to another question that I'm curious to get your take on. Do you think that should they have the opportunity, would Omega's sister go with them? What's her name? Doctor or whatever?
Emery.
Yeah, Emery. Do you think Emery would leave?
Yeah, I think they're setting up Emery's redemption. You can tell that she's got mixed feelings after giving Hemlock the blood sample.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she returns the the Tuka doll
Mm-hmm.
to Omega, so she's not heartless. My question is she, you know, is she the product of cloning? Or is she Jango Fett's actual daughter?
It's a good question. Because she says that she's her sister, right?
But she doesn't look like a typical clone.
No, and neither does Omega, right?
Now that I think of it, Omega and Asajj Ventress have the same hair.
That's true. Well, it's becoming more that. I did notice that before Omega left Mount Tantus, that she had the same hair as her sister.
Yeah,
it was pulled back the same way, the same ponytail. Yeah, yeah. And I do think they are setting that up, which again leads me back to when this season ends and this series as is at its end. Do you feel like this story is going to be completely wrapped, meaning everybody's dead, similar to, I mean, or is there more story to tell, but we'll have to get it somewhere else?
The second one.
Yeah.
There'll be more. There'll be more.
I hope so. I hope so. And I'm anxious. I saw something come across and I didn't check it to see if it was real or not, where Lucasfilm was looking for animators. Did you see that?
I did. I did.
Did you look into it at all?
I did, yeah. They're looking for assistant animators who have medium skill level. So no one, at the top, but people to assist the main animators at Lucasfilm. So that's almost certainly for some kind of upcoming project.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear what it will be. Do you think we find out what the next animated series is before this concludes, or are we going to have to wait a year or so to find out what next animated?
It'll be Book of Boba Fett type
you
of
think
thing.
That? Oh, okay.
At the end of Mando 2, there was an announcement, Book of Boba Fett, December 2021. Yeah. I think they're going to do the same thing with Bad Batch, where it'll say, I don't know, Tales of the Bounty Hunters or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also don't think we'll find out if anyone dies. They might do a full cliffhanger.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? Like the final episode is called Here Comes the Cavalry. And it could literally be all of them being like, we're going to take down the Empire. And then as they storm Tantis, it cuts to black.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was a movie or a show that kind of did that just as they were going into battle. I think it was a Marvel movie. I could be wrong. Where they're just getting ready to go into battle and it just stops. That's the end of the show. And you're wondering, well, what happens? An Obsession I saw, he says he thinks everybody dies in this, similar to Rogue One, right? Like,
I know the movie you mean. I can't remember which one it was. Yeah, but they have like this big speech and they're like, if we do this, we're doing it together or something like that.
Yeah, and then you can kind of see them smile at each other and then they look forward and they like going into the battle and then it just stops, right? The movie ends. Yeah. That would both be awesome and terrible, right?
Yeah.
Look, I'm excited about it. I put the leaderboard down below. In episode 4, Baymax was the only one who got as many questions correct as I did, and then the leaderboard is down to just the 3: Brian, Brett, and CCG. Baymax is climbing the leaderboard, but still just a few points behind. He's got some catch up to make. We'll see how well I do this next week. I had some information regarding episode 4, and I shared that last week in Tuesday's live stream beforehand, and I did very, very well. This next episode, I know very little. I only know a couple of things. and as I mentioned with the bounty hunters, to lower my expectations and to be more patient. So that's basically all I know is that because I was thinking the bounty hunters were going to show up sooner than later, and I was told, slow your roll, Santa. It's not coming yet. You're going to have to wait. In fact, to be more specific, they're not in the first 8 episodes. We're going to have to wait until after episode 8 to see them. So we'll have to see how that rolls out. But so that's all I know. So this week, when I come to my predictions, I'm gonna say, well, we'll cover it next week. But I think we're going to Pabu, and we'll see the story unfold from there as Omega starts to rally the troops and say, we need to go back to Mount Tantus. And they're like, what? Are you out of your mind? Why would we go back? And she's going to plead for all those who are being held there. That's my guess.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. Well, I think I've got a Mike Porter dad joke. Mike Porter has been paying attention to the show, and he knows that people have been trolling me on Darth Plagueis. So I give you a little bit of a clue to the answer to the Mike Porter dad joke. But it says, who was Chancellor Palpatine referring to when he would ask about a Sith that would use others' work as his own? Well, he says, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth plagiarism? It wasn't wise. Oh, I like it, Mike. Very good. What do you think, Meg? That's a good one.
It is a good one. Darth plagiarism.
Darth plagiarism. Mike Porter, the chosen pun. Thank you for that. Megan, thanks for being here today. Thanks for staying long and talking about the Bad Batch. That's great. And your video today was excellent. I had fun listening to it and discussing it in your Discord. So, any plans for the weekend? Do anything fun?
Good question. First time in a long time I don't actually know. I've got a Bad Batch for you tomorrow.
Okay. What's the general topic of the Bad Batch video?
I can just tell you. It's does Crosshair know that Tech is dead?
Oh, excellent. It's a good teaser for tomorrow. Excellent. Very good. Our plans this weekend are house cleaning.
Very exciting.
Which kind of stinks because the weather is going to be fantastic here. Sunny and warm for the beginning of March. We're coming in like a lamb, which means it's supposed to go out like a lion. How's March opening for you? Good weather or rocky, stormy?
Very rocky, very stormy, blustery, rainy.
Okay, well, so you have promise of it coming, leaving like a lamb. We're having nice weather at the end of the month. So here we're doing it backwards. It's coming in nicely, and then it's going to get. My guess is that if it follows the tradition, it'll go out kind of like a lion and be no fun at all. All right. Well, Meg, thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Exactly. So if you want to hang out and talk afterward, that's fine. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend, my friend.
You too, Santa. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody here, thank you all for being here. And until next time, my friends, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye.